Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Actually, the last time I saw you was in the London Eye. Do you remember when you played acoustically down there? I don't know, it's about 20 journalists all filming you.
One of the weird and wacky places to play.
It's the first and only time I've been on the London Eye. It's great, that was. Was it promoting video camera. You just had everybody in there was filming you. Must have been a bit weird.
Bizarre experience. And do you know what? It's quite funny because I was just I had a moment where I was determined to play the weirdest places possible. Like the Marathon Kebab Shop in Camden,
great place.
Played on Southend Pier, London Eye, on a train, on a bus.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that tips over now. I think I've gone through the adventurous Let's Play everywhere phase and kind of a bit of a studio hermit.
No. What are you recording at the moment then if you're in the studio? And just done the album?
This guy called Jest, who is just the best lyricist, best MC I think in the country, and just working on a track together really. Kind of, how would I describe it? It's kind of a bit Gorillaz-y, maybe. But it's kind of, I've been watching the Doors documentary, and do you know what, I didn't really know much of the Doors. Didn't really know too much, about a lot of kind of 70s rock music. And my whole headspace is completely flipped on its head. It's this idea of how many people can play this, 4, minimal, be really lazy and really kind of, lazy in groove, not lazy in productivity. But kind of really sitting back on stuff, and because his delivery's so good and he's so sharp, it's kind of nice to have this kind of lazy bluesy thing going on, and then him just kind of flowing over the top.
Yeah.
God knows what'll ever happen to it, I have no idea, but it's fun.
Nice. Well, I just to come back and just listen to your album, obviously. Congratulations. I have to say, it's a very, very strong album. I think it's fantastic. And a self-titled album. Why is that? Do you think this is your strongest material to date?
I think it's a realisation of something. Sometimes I guess if you're reading a book, when you come to, end of one conclusion or to another, you have chapter titles. And I don't know, the kind of last 2 albums and the journey kind of feels a bit like a prologue. I was young, learning a lot, learning loads and loads and loads, and meeting people that were challenging me. But then I kind of took a couple of years out, spent a lot of time in the studio reflecting, and now it kind of feels like a kind of different level, a different book, a different chapter, and I think there's generally an eponymous title that pops up somewhere in somebody's career, and it felt like the right time for it to come for me.
It's normally, the best album, mostly.
Well,
and that has to be said. Sounding very good. Well, how old are you? 24?
24, yeah.
All 3 albums. You're cementing it well for a future, a long-term future in music, obviously. Which is your favourite track on the album?
All of This Is Yours from Rock and Roll. Hands down my favourite. From the way that we recorded it, because we kind of recorded it in 2 sections, right the way through to just having the pleasure of being in the studio with him, getting to see him, getting to sing, because you take the headphones off and it's just his voice, that for an hour was wonderful. And he kind of had this strange way he was writing the guitar part. He was kind of playing along and kind of playing in this groove, and just kept tuning and kept tuning. I had no idea what he was doing, and at times I was like, I don't really know what you're doing here, mate. It doesn't really fit. And then suddenly, again and again, and he's in, and you hear this part, and it's killer. And then, when he went, I kind of picked the guitar up to try and play it, and it was in this kind of relative tuning to the track. It's a really different way of doing things, and I learned a lot from that as well.
How did the collaboration come about?
Through Africa Express. I'd seen him play at Africa Express events, and then went out to Nigeria. It's about 35 of us went out on this trip for celebration. So it's the 70th, would have been Fela Kuti's 70th birthday. We were at the Shrine Club, and it was, overwhelming experience. But got to know him a bit and was playing with him a bit. And then, sometimes you've got to be cheeky, haven't you? And go, if you've got a spare minute, would you fancy doing something? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to. And he came over when he was in London playing a show and did it in the studio.
Super. And what about, how does the new album translate live then?
It's probably in a weird way, now that I'm not playing live so much with just me and a laptop like I used to, it's probably the record that would work best just me and a laptop.
It does. It has that feeling, actually. It's a lot.
is kind of a lot less live instrumentation, not programming or kind of playing it live and then resampling it and making it feel programmed. And so live was a challenge when we started rehearsing, but then it kind of became, you know, a real blessing and a joy, because it's kind of it's a totally different feel. You know, it's some of the tracks feel more lively, some of them feel much more restrained. You know, you kind of, when you've got a big kind of punch of a kick and a snare driving a track, and you take that out, you know, that's kind of what happens when you stop using electronics and start using a live drummer, because you get all these subtleties and all this space. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, you know, and the guys I play with are wicked. You know, they've kind of got loads of different arrangements and ideas. Yeah, it's so much fun to do.
How did you know, get the band together?
Stolen it from other bands.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, when I was touring a lot and playing with a lot of, you know, bands from all over the UK, you start to see people that are, you know, that are really good and can really play. And you know, when I was fortunate enough to get a record deal, you know, the timing was good because nobody had to leave what they were doing. It was just like, you know, I think you're great. Do you want to come and play with me? And that's kind of built up over time. And there's 6 of us that are pretty solid. And, yeah, so kind of a mixture of people from playing different bands I've known for years.
Superb. And I don't know, I was looking at, I mean, how did you choose obviously the album, the way it goes, the sequence of the album? Because it feels like quite a complete album. It goes the ups and downs, the highs, the lows, the happy, the sad, the angsty. The sort of, is that all your own idea? Or?
Well, I can't tell you how many album track listings there were. I can't even remember, but there were loads and loads and loads and loads. And in Sod's Law, like, this one will do. You know, kind of, I'll have a listen on the way over, and it just felt right. You know, you kind of, I think it was probably overthinking it, but you know, went through. Yeah, even tracks were missing, and tracks came back.
I was going to say, but did you leave some tracks out?
Well, Nightlife came back kind of at the 11th hour. It wasn't going to be on there, and now it's probably my favourite of the record. You know? So we went through all these track listings, all these different albums, and listening back to it, it feels like, I guess all that thought and all that process and time kind of stood for something, because it feels like for me, it feels like a complete listen. You know,
it does, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, a Cooking Vinyl as a label to work for, you like them?
They're brilliant because there's not a lot of direct communication. You know, only when it needs to be there. You know, sometimes you can overtalk and overplan and overthink, and they're great. They're just like, get on, do your thing, and then when you need us, we're here. You know, and if you need to kick up the arse, we're here. You know, so it's kind of, it's really nice. It's a really fresh and free relationship.
Who chooses the singles then?
It's a combination of both of us. Generally, I really wanted The Uprising to be. At first I thought it to be the first single, and then by that time we hadn't fully finished the track Shy. I mean, that came in 2 days after the first mastering of the album, and then we remixed it and remastered it to make sure it was right. And then that felt right. This has got to be the first one because it's a song.
Yeah, definitely.
And then so it's kind of nice because the 2 songs that kind of encompass the themes of the record are there as the first 2 singles.
So good. And just another subject, how's your record label going, Mannequin?
It's on a bit of a hiatus just simply because of time. You know, it was kind of like, when I wasn't on the road or active, it was more difficult for me to kind of keep things ticking over. And the people that ran it with me were amazing. And to be honest with you, they kind of ran the show. And it just, you know, some things it's not the right time. And those bands have gone on to do great things anyway. So it's,
what other stuff you listen to at the moment?
Listening to the Villagers album loads. That's absolutely brilliant.
Sorry.
So you're in London, can't you? But you can, I mean, the Villagers album, I've been listening to it absolutely loads. It's classic. You know, just brilliant songs, brilliant sounding. Everything album's class. And that's really good. And also just a lot of like things that I'd never listened to before. You know, spending a lot more time with rock and roll. I don't really like rock and roll too much, but I'm kind of into it at the moment. And it's nice, you know, from kind of spending a bit of time with hip-hop, a bit of time with funk, and now that seems to be the thing that I'm
Guns N'
studying
Roses,
and
is that rock and roll? Or?
Not so much Guns N' Roses, more kind of like more kind of Zeppelin, more riffs, you know.
Yeah.
You know, kind of more riffs and less hair.
Yeah, your hair's looking very nice, by the way.
Oh, it's unkempt, it's a mess. There's a couple of birds growing in there, I think.
No, it's looking good. And what about, I know you do a lot of stuff for charity and that. What's the next project on that sort of side of things?
Still working with Joe Guitar Doors. It's been a real eye-opener. 60% of people, 60% of people that were released will re-offend within the first year. So it's trying to find ways to kind of, for music for me, I'm playing guitar, I'm kind of exercising demons. Putting things in a way that I couldn't necessarily do face to face. Putting guitars back into the prison, put into the prison service, and these guys are coming out. Johnny and Liam are wicked. They're coming and going to the prisons. They'll go in probably more than we do, teach. And, I just think it's something that's really important because these people who are in our custody, they're going to be our neighbours. They're going to be in our areas. What do we want people to be? Do we want people to be good, or do we want to lock people away, forget about them? And I think there is obviously an element of doing the time for your crime and the kind of sense of having to come to your own conclusions and your own sense of justice. But I don't think that we should forget about people. I've messed up loads of times in my life, and nobody I care about forgave me. Forgave me, so why shouldn't it be like that in the greater society? So that's definitely something I've been doing more of in the future.
That's a good, worthwhile project. I've been a few times to see that. And I don't know. Have you got anything to say to music news readers?
Hello.
With I don't know. Let's say sort of first the journey. Let's say through music. Let's say from first, second, third album. What have you learned, and which way are you going towards now on the fourth?
Well, if I knew everything I knew now, I'd have done everything so much differently. But then I probably wouldn't have learned it. Time and space, inside and outside of music, is so important. Letting things breathe. It's kind of a real kind of realisation that I've come to. That musically, that XX album is a perfect example of letting things breathe. Kind of. A lot of kind of, the Beatles, great example of letting things breathe, letting things have their moments in their space. But also in life, kind of realising that, making music and doing music is great, but there has to be kind of time for other things and, to build communities and to build relationships and to build friendships and to kind of set those foundations for life. It's not something that can be taken for granted.
Superb. Great stuff. Well, thanks a lot. And so the next single will be. You're in the middle of the tour now at the moment.
Yeah.
So what's the next? You've got a festival tomorrow.
Festival tomorrow. Installs through the week, and then off on tour Thursday for 6 weeks.
You like being on tour? It's part of the job that you enjoy the most.
I love it.
Not?
It's the thing I did first. I was, kind of on the road before I'd recorded anything, and it's funny having time. I'm getting attached to the studio now. Before I was like, I don't like it so much now. But yeah, can't wait. So long.
Sorry, all the installs are with the full band as well?
No, just me and the
I was just a start. Okay. And then laptop as well?
No, just me and the acoustic.
When's the laptop going to see the light of day then?
The laptop will be back at some point, I'm just not sure when.
Good stuff. Okay, well thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.